Howdy folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today for you I have a Mighty game review of Batman Arkham Knight. Let's just take and do a quick dive on into the very basic bare bone information, and that is the developer is Rocksteady Studios, which developed both Arkham City and Arkham Asylum, but they were not the developer for Arkham Origins. The publisher is Warner Brothers Interactive. That was the publisher for all of them. The engine is Unreal 3. Once again, that was the engine for all of them, folks. It was released on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Windows PC, June of 2015. So this is the newest of the Batman Arkham games. And I do believe it's the last because I don't believe Gotham Knight is per se part of the Arkham series. I'm not 100% sure of that at this time. Which actually, that's a game I'm going to be checking out here soon as well. But with that being said, story, premise, well, the Joker's dead, and there's actually been a long strain of everything just being quiet. And all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose, and that's because the Scarecrow's got some great master plan, and he's going to gas like the whole Eastern Seaboard with his fear toxin. And there's this guy named the Arkham Knight who's kind of helping him work with his mercenaries. And essentially, it's a revenge trip. You know, I'm just going to put this where it is. The Arkham Knight is Jason Todd, and this is very Batman under the Red Hood-like kind of story without being directly Batman under the Red Hood. Now, with that being said, stuff I liked, definitely better skin and Batmobile integration. Like, as soon as you start the game, you just go to view the trophies, or I forget what the heck the section's called. But literally, you just go to a section and you just set what skins you want to run with. You have multiple different kinds of skins, including, as you can see here, from Batman versus Superman. You have the original Arkham skin. You have the Batman Incorporated skin. There's just a bunch of them. Dark Knight Returns skin, once again. It's kind of weird how every time they've done an Arkham game, the Dark Knight Returns skin makes its way into the game, and that's, I think, the only skin that's been in every single game. As you know, as well as you also get the 1989 Batman, and you also get the Dark Knight Begins Batman, and there's a lot of different skins for them, as well as you can set the skins for the secondary characters as well. So that's kind of cool. Not all the secondary characters, but some of them you can. And you can also set skins for the Batmobiles. However, there's a bit of a caveat to that. That was a little bit of a disappointment, which I'll get to here in a little bit. The next thing I can really appreciate is the man, the myth, the legend, Kevin Conroy returns, reprises his role to do the voice acting for Batman. And yeah, I could definitely really appreciate that. There was also some other voice actors as well. There, you know, the voice acting in general for the game was actually really good. Everybody's voices were, in my opinion, phenomenal. The only one I kind of felt let down about was actually Scarecrow's. Scarecrow just didn't feel like a good fit for me, but that's just my personal opinion. Graphics looks good. However, that being said, I don't know. There are some things about Arkham Origins that looked more appealing to me than Arkham Knight did, but the graphics definitely is superior to Arkham Knight here. So, yeah, where it is. And there's moments where it's just like, wow, the graphics in this game is actually really good, especially when it comes to the atmosphere. The game generally overall to me sounds pretty good. And with that being said, the Batmobile is just absolutely badass. I'm not a huge fan of the look of it, but I like how it plays. I like how it functions. I kind of wish it looked kind of, I don't know. It kind of reminds me of some cross between the Tumbler from the Dark Knight series and the Batman versus Superman Batmobile. Combat is definitely improved. I did not really have any moments where Batman just kind of fucked off and went swinging out in the middle of air for no other reason than just to swing his fist out in the midair, which I did have problems with in the earlier Batmans. This one, it definitely seemed like they took more time to get it synced in and to get it right. The movement also was improved. There was no moments where I had movement jank. I was very surprised. So very good there. Now, the negative sides of this game, even with my PC, my hardware, and I have a higher end gaming rig, there was still moments of chop just here and there, and it wasn't like I was losing FPS. It's just like I'd have a 7 second of where I would just lose FPS, or not FPS. It would just like stutter for a second. Really weird. I think it had something related to loading, but I really couldn't get zeroed in on it because after so long, it just stopped happening. So like towards the beginning of the game, it happened here and there enough that it was noticeable, and then it just stopped happening. So I don't understand what that's about. The driving overall, the next thing, driving overall, in my opinion, kind of sucked. It was pretty jank at times, to be honest, especially when trying to do like the Riddler racetracks. I found it to be really jank. And that's actually where I found it to be jank the most. And even just in normal terms, it was pretty jank. I've definitely had better driving experiences in games, and I felt kind of let down, which I want to also dive into here in a bit because, yeah, the Batmobile. Tutorials are poorly explained. When it comes to the tutorials, this one definitely has the worst explanations of all the Arkham games when it comes to the tutorials. And there you go. That's just, it is what it is. Now, with that being said, in my opinion, the story's okay, but honestly, compared to the other Arkham games, it's pretty mediocre. Now, don't get me wrong, they do make it just work, but in all honesty, yeah, it was just the way they did the whole Batman under the Red Hood thing here was just pretty poorly done, in my opinion. Now, that being said, yeah, it's still a better story than some games I've played, so I'm not going to complain too much on that end. I just do want to put out there that of the 4 Arkham games, this definitely does have the weakest story. Now, for some odd reason, I think I know why it is, and I think it's got to do with the mechanics and the features of the Batmobile, but essentially the Batmobile skins cannot be used outside of the main game. In the main game. When you're doing the story, you can't use the Batmobile skins. You're stuck with the default Batmobile as is. Now, for the race stuff, like the Riddler races, you can use the other skins, but just for the core game itself, you can't use them. So it's kind of like one of those of, you guys probably could have just skipped out on that then if that was going to be the case. And I understand why they did it that way. It just kind of sucks. As you can see here, I got Batman rocking out the 1989 Batsuit, and it would have been even more awesome to also be rocking out the 1989 Batmobile, which is a skin in the game for the Batmobile. That being said, the Batmobile. The Batmobile is just so overly used. You know, just when I think I'd get the hell away from the Batmobile for 5 minutes, I need the Batmobile again. And it just made me fucking facepalm after so long. Just so heavily used. I think it's a cool mechanic that if it was sprinkled, would have been good. But the game was so overly used and it was so overly saturated. And that makes me even more crazy about how much the driving kind of sucked in this game, that the Batmobile was so heavily used. And it just felt like, oh, cool, I can get up and get away from the Batmobile. Oh, no, now I need the Batmobile again. And then, of course, I'd either have to remote control it or I'd have to call for it or whatever. And after so much of it, it literally started turning me off the game. I just got to the point where I was like, I don't want to play this anymore. Because it was constant Batmobile. It was more about the Batmobile than Batman at certain points of the game. So I feel that kind of weakened the gameplay overall, even though the gameplay at its core is very similar to the previous games and is still actually pretty good. Now, with that being said, the base game is $20. The season pass is another $20, which gets you all the DLC stuff, the extra skins, and etc. My honest opinion, if I was going to buy this now, I would either get it as part of the deluxe edition, where it comes with the deluxe edition, or at least I think it does, or I would just buy the base game. I wouldn't buy the DLCs or the season pass. In my opinion, it's just not worth it. Half the DLC stuff you really can't use, like the '89 Batmobile. You also have the original '60s Batmobile So it's just kind of bleh. You also had even the Batman versus Superman Batmobile and the Arkham Batmobile. And basically, it comes down to you have a half dozen or so Batmobile skins, and you can't really use them for the main story of the game, which is the meat and the potatoes of the game. So, like, there's no point in having it. With that being said, even though I feel it is the weakest of the Arkham games, in my honest opinion, I mean, like, I'd rather play any of the Arkham games over this one. It's still not bad. I just don't highly recommend it like I do the previous ones. With that being said, too, it will keep your hands full. Anyway, folks, that's my opinion, my review of Batman Arkham Knight. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Thank you very much for tuning in. And folks, like and share around this video, help out a growing YouTuber, things of that nature, because, I don't know, YouTubers like that kind of stuff. Either way, folks, thanks again for tuning in and have yourself a wonderful day.